इस बार भी मिलेंगे।
पूरा महीना देश में, हमारे भारत देश में 1 जनवरी से लेकर 31 जनवरी 2025 को पूरा महीना को रोड सेफ्टी मंथ के रूप में मनाया जाता है। ठीक है, इस जो एक्सीडेंट हुए हैं इसका डेटा बताता है कि साहब ज्यादातर डेथ जो है 2 व्हीलर के एक्सीडेंट में, और 2 व्हीलर में भी जो लोग हेलमेट नहीं पहनने की वजह से एक्सीडेंट ज्यादा हो रहे हैं। ठीक है, इवन डाटा ये भी बताता है कि बजाज पल्सर गाड़ी का सबसे ज्यादा एक्सीडेंट हुआ। पता नहीं बजाज पल्सर पे बैठने वाले लोग, जो उसका एक प्रचार है डेफिनेटली मेल, यानी कि बजाज पल्सर खड़ी है, उसके अगल बगल में दूसरे मोटरसाइकिल खड़े हैं, तो बजाज पल्सर जो है स्कूटी की तरफ देखने लगता है, तो उसका प्रचार में बोला जाता है कि डेफिनेटली मेल, मतलब जो बजाज पल्सर है और उसके ऊपर बैठने वाले लोग हैं मर्द वही हैं, बाकी सब ऐसे ही घूम रहे हैं। तो चूंकि ये इस तरह की जो भावना है, उसके बाद वो बंदा बैठ के सब जॉन अब्राहम बनने लगता है। जॉन अब्राहम जब रोड पे शूटिंग के लिए जाते हैं, मैंने भी कई बार शूटिंग देखी है, आप लोगों ने भी देखी होगी, वो रोड क्लियर करा दिया जाता है, या अगर कुछ ट्रैफिक छोड़ा जाता है तो उसको बताया जाता है भाई अब्राहम साहब के लिए जगह छोड़ना, अब्राहम साहब ने 100 पे 90 पे चलाना है मोटरसाइकिल, और वो जनरली जो है ऑफ आवर में चलाए जाते हैं, रात के लेट नाइट चलाते हैं वो लोग। तो इसलिए ये रोड सेफ्टी का जो डिटेल आपको बताया जाएगा वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। और पिछले साल ही सिर्फ 30,000 डेथ हुआ है जिसमें हेलमेट नहीं पहनने की वजह से। भाई बीच में जो ये लोग हैं, टॉमी करके एक आ रहे हैं, उनकी आवाज आ रही है बार बार, प्लीज स्विच ऑफ योर माइक सो दैट अगर मैं आपको बोलना होगा आपको भी मौका देंगे अगले 2-2.5 घंटे में। हो रहा है, इसको बंद करिए। दूसरा जो है रोड नेटवर्क जो देखा जाता है, महाराष्ट्र में सबसे ज्यादा रोड नेटवर्क है, 1,00,000 से ज्यादा किलोमीटर का रोड बना हुआ है। राजस्थान में उसके बाद नंबर 2 है इंडिया में, जो 1,50,876 किलोमीटर का रोड है। ठीक है, पूरे दुनिया में माना जाता है कि सबसे सेफ रोड सेफ्टी के लिहाज से सबसे सेफ कंट्री है नीदरलैंड, जिसका स्कोर है 7.86, 10 आउट ऑफ 10। ठीक है, उसी तरह से नंबर 2 है नॉर्वे और नंबर 3 है स्वीडन। तो हम लोग इनसे बहुत पीछे हैं, रोड सेफ्टी में हम लोग का रिकॉर्ड बहुत खराब है। और हम सब लोग इतने जागरूक और स्मार्ट लोग जो यहाँ बैठे हैं, वो चाहेंगे तो इस रोड सेफ्टी को हम और अच्छा कर सकते हैं और इस डेथ को घटा सकते हैं। ठीक है, जो 5 मुख्य कारण हैं रोड एक्सीडेंट के, उसमें सबसे पहला कारण है रेकलेस ड्राइविंग, यानी ड्राइविंग जो हम कर रहे हैं, हमारे कई लोग कर रहे हैं, वो गलत तरीके से कर रहे हैं। यूट्यूब पे वीडियो भरा हुआ है, बहुत सारे वीडियो हैं जो ये दिखाते हैं कि लोग कैसे गलती से एक्सीडेंट होता है गलत ड्राइविंग की वजह से, गलत लेन में घुस जाते हैं। अपोजिट डायरेक्शन से लेफ्ट से चलना चाहिए, जो हमारा जो सिस्टम है इंडिया में, लेफ्ट हैंड ड्राइविंग, राइट हैंड ड्राइविंग करते हैं बट लेफ्ट साइड से चलते हैं, बट अपोजिट साइड से लोग आ रहे हैं। ठीक है, शॉर्टकट के चक्कर में समय बचाने के लिए ऐसा करते हैं। रेकलेस ड्राइविंग नंबर 1 कारण है जिसकी वजह से एक्सीडेंट होते हैं। दूसरा है कि एनफोर्समेंट, जो एनफोर्समेंट किया जाता है सही ट्रैफिक रूल को फॉलो करने का, वो सही नहीं है। या तो ट्रैफिक पुलिस के लोग हमारे पास कम है, या लोग एनफोर्समेंट वालों की सुनते नहीं है। ठीक है, एक चौराहे पे एक ट्रैफिक का बंदा खड़ा है, वहां 500 गाड़ियां जा रही है, कोई लेफ्ट जा रहा है, कोई राइट जा रहा है, कोई सिस्टम नहीं। हर आदमी अपने टायर पहले घुसाता है कि मैं ही निकलूंगा पहले। तो इस तरह से जो नंबर 2 कारण है लैक्स एनफोर्समेंट ऑफ ट्रैफिक रूल्स। तीसरा है पुअर रोड की खराबी की वजह से। मैं यहाँ पे कुछ छोटा सा उदाहरण बताऊंगा। मैं बीएसएफ में इंदौर में पोस्टेड था, वहां पे एक लड़की मेडिकल की स्टूडेंट स्कूटी से जा रही थी, और वो जिस रोड पे जा रही थी उस रोड में गड्ढे कई थे, तो गड्ढा बचाने के लिए उसने 60 टर्न काटा, थोड़ा काटा राइट की तरफ, और पीछे से एक बस आ रही थी, उस बस ने उसके ऊपर चढ़ा दिया। इस तरह के एक्सीडेंट रोड खराब होने के लिए बहुत होते हैं। बट मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि उसके बाद उस रोड को उसके फादर ने, लड़की के फादर ने बोला कि मैं पूरा जीवन जब तक इंदौर में हूं, मैं इस रोड में गड्ढा बनने नहीं दूंगा। और उन्होंने वो गड्ढे के रिपेयर अपने कॉस्ट पे करना और कई बार तो खुद करना शुरू कर दिया, छोटा गड्ढा है भरने लगे। तो इस तरह का जो लोग हैं वो, इनको भी अकल आई तब जब उन्होंने अपनी डॉटर को जो मेडिकल कर रही थी उसको लूज किया, उनका नुकसान हो गया। ठीक है, तो इस तरह से बहुत सारे लोग हैं हमारे देश में जो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। हम सब लोग भी जो लॉ एनफोर्समेंट में हैं, वर्दीधारी हैं, हमारी भी जिम्मेदारी है। तो हम सबसे पहले तो ये सारे रूल्स एंड लॉज को समझें और इसको जहां भी जरूरत हो पहले खुद को फॉलो करें। अगर आप खुद फॉलो नहीं करेंगे, आप खुद मैग्नेट नहीं बनेंगे, किसी और को मैग्नेट नहीं बना सकते। तो पहले हम मैग्नेट बने, चीजों को समझें, अपने ट्रैफिक नियम को पालन, अपने जब गाड़ी चलाते हैं या रोड पे जाते हैं ट्रैफिक नियम का पालन करें और उसके बाद दूसरे लोगों को बताएं। तो जब हम खुद करेंगे और दूसरे को बताएंगे तो उसका बहुत फायदा होगा। तो इस तरह से जो है और ये जो इसके ऊपर जो एक मुहिम जो चली है उसका जो टैग लाइन है वो बोलता है, आपके आज के कार्य कल जीवन बचा सकते हैं। ठीक है, परिवर्तन बने। अगर आप अच्छा काम आज करेंगे, चाहे रोड बनाने वाले हों, चाहे लॉ इन्फोर्समेंट वाले हों, ट्रैफिक रूल को इन्फोर्स करने वाले हों, अगर हम आज अच्छा काम करेंगे तो कल लोगों का जीवन बदलेगा, मतलब बचेगा, और हम परिवर्तन के कारण बनेंगे। वी विल बी एबल टू चेंज, we will be able to change the existing system। तो जो ये 474 डेथ पर डे का है, ये पर डे डेथ हो रहे हैं। पिछले साल 1,80,000 लोग रोड पे डेथ हुआ है। तो ये 474 बहुत ज्यादा अलार्मिंग है। दुनिया के कंट्रीज में, जो बहुत सारी कंट्रीज में हमारा जो रोड सेफ्टी का स्टैंडर्ड बहुत नीचे है। तो हम इसको ठीक करें, अच्छा करें। रोड के कंडीशन, हाईवे बहुत अच्छे बन रहे हैं हमारे देश में, लेकिन अगर ट्रैफिक का पालन सही नहीं करेंगे, ट्रैफिक रूल का, तो हमें बहुत नुकसान उठा सकते हैं, पाएंगे। तो इसीलिए मैं आज के दिन और इस जो वेबिनार के थ्रू मैं आप सबको अनुरोध करना चाहता हूं कि हम सब लोग पहले इन रूल्स को, नियम कानूनों को समझें और इसको लोगों को बताएं, और समझने के बाद पहले तो खुद फॉलो करें, फॉलो करने के बाद लोगों को बताएं, जिससे कि जो हमारा वेबिनार का मुद्दा है वो अचीव हो। थैंक यू वेरी मच, ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट। मनोज, ओवर टू यू।
सभी से रिक्वेस्ट है कि अपने माइक बंद कर लें सर, क्योंकि फिर उसमें डिस्टरबेंस क्रिएट हो रहा है और किसी को आवाज नहीं आ रही है। So we are now going to start our session. So before that, I am requesting you all to please off your mic so that the speaker, when he will talk, you will be able to recognize, you will be able to understand, you will be able to listen. So now we are going to start our session. I would like to thank our Deputy Director, sir, for his valuable insight. And before starting the session, I would like to introduce our speaker of the day, eminent personality, Padma Shri Subrata Das, sir. I would like to tell you something about sir. Dr. Subrata Das, winner of one of India's highest civilian awards, Padma Shri, for his work on highway trauma care, co-founded Lifeline Foundation with the aim of reducing the 1,50,000 annual highway deaths in India. The only Indian to be honored with the Asian EMS Lifetime Achievement Award by the Asian EMS Council in 2015. The Times of India calls Dr. Das the country's best known EMS expert. He works at the crossroads of emergency medical services, public health, public safety, trauma care, and industrial medicine. An Ashoka Fellow, he is a founding member of Asian Association for EMS and chair of its South and Central Asian chapters. An Eisenhower Fellow, He has been associated with projects on road safety and EMS supported by Niti Aayog and the EAC to the Prime Minister. Being the technical head of the Road Safety Education Committee and the principal author of the project on EMS funding commissioned by EAC PM in 2019, he was the first in India to advocate a unified national medical emergency helpline number for highways and legislation for EMS and trauma care as a fundamental right. Dr. Das is also championing two other significant issues in India through his position as director of HSFI, Heart and Stroke Foundation of India, a wholly owned subsidiary of American Heart Association, reducing under 5 mortality and stroke-related morbidities and mortalities. So this is all I would like to tell about our eminent speaker, Dr. Das, sir. I would like to request our speaker to start his session, sir, to give his visual insight about the session. Sir, Das, sir. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, Manojji. Thank you for having me here. Really good to be again associated with CAPT. I wish this was an in-person platform. Would have enjoyed it more. CAPT is home to me. I've always been there and I enjoy being there. Shailesh ji is the first time that I'm meeting you virtually. A lot of thanks for getting me to speak here. I realized on the chat that a request to do it in English because English, so I'll stick to English. I'll try to switch between Hindi and translate. It's a very difficult topic to speak bilingually. I have to share the rights, I think. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. It's something. Yeah.
Sir, is there any problem, sir?
No, I'm just looking at. Okay.
Sir, we are able to see the PPT, sir.
You are able to see the PPT, sir? Fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. आप देख सकते हैं ना सब PPT? It's not changing.
दिख रहा है PPT, sir. Please start,
Yeah,
sir.
but it's not changing. No, एक minute, it's not changing. Just give me a minute.
Sir.
Okay. Is it changing the slides at your end?
Sir, now we are able to see the second slide actually. Sir, please change the slide so that I can tell you, sir.
Yeah.
No, it's the same slide, sir. It's the same slide.
Okay. Just give me a minute. Technical glitches होते हैं. इसे
सर वो सेकंड स्लाइड पे क्लिक करिएगा ना, शायद उससे सेकंड स्लाइड पे जाएगा वो. हाँ, ये आप स्लाइड पे जाएंगे सर तो स्लाइड एक के बाद एक चलेगी फिर. हाँ मैम, इस पे करिए.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Now it will change. Actually, that was not the slideshow, sir. That's why. Those who have newly joined us, please switch off your mic, sir, so that the others will be able to listen the speaker, sir. सर आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही सर, माइक ऑफ है शायद।
Thank you.
हाँ सर,
अब आ रही है? Fine.
हाँ अब आ रही है सर।
So it's a very challenging topic जो मुझे दिया गया. I'm basically into the 4T. We pioneered the 4T of road safety, the emergency care. But मनोज जी को की एक आदत है कि वो बहुत ही चैलेंजिंग टॉपिक्स दिया करते हैं स्पीकर्स को. And I'm really thankful that he gave me this topic. So what I'm going to do is over the next 60-70 minutes talk on these things: our work, the sustainable development goals, burden of emergencies in India, क्या resources है हमारे पास, देश के कानून क्या है, the laws of the country, the 4 E's of road safety, and enforcement, because you all come from an enforcement background. Enforcement and SDG ko how can we sync together? As Manoj said, I worked at the cross sectors of emergency medical services, occupational health, road safety, trauma care, and industrial safety. And when I talk of trauma care, we work beyond roads, a lot of other trauma that happens in the country. So our story goes back to 99. I'm a doctor, but I don't practice anymore. So me and my wife had this accident traveling on one of India's very old but very important highways connecting Delhi to Bombay. And I live in Vadodara, which is in Gujarat.
ये पता लो क्या हो रहा है, क्यों लेट हो रहा है?
So
क्या?
we had this accident in 99, rainy night. रात को 1:30 बजे accident हुआ, and we were left to die on the highway for 4.5 hours. So somebody's
तो घाट
mic
कमांडो
is
का अलर्ट
still
कर दो
on.
पूरा, ठीक है? बच्चे
आशुतोष जी
पढ़ रहे
आपका
हैं,
माइक अगर बंद करे तो अच्छा होगा. Yeah. So as I was saying, we were left to die on the highway. 4.5 घंटा पड़े रहे. 2-lane highways. Vajpayee साहब जो prime minister थे तब had just started working on the golden quadrilateral, स्वर्ण चतुर्भुज जिसको हम कहते हैं. Cell phones आए थे, पर if you remember, it was 1 minute incoming was 17 rupees, and we had one cell phone between the 4 of us, and that went dead after some time. कोई नहीं रुका. Rainy night, क्यों रुके लोग? People are always worried somebody would be faking an accident. And after 4.5 hours, we got some relief. As I said, the SP Kheda is here online, and there's a place called Vasad, which is near the milk capital Amul. So this guy on a mobike saw us. He's carrying cans of milk to the dairy, saw us, stopped, and helped us. When we reached the hospital, Sushmita, my wife, made a statement that we were lucky to be alive. Let's ensure that others don't die on the highways. And that's how we created India's first highway accident helpline. It was a 10-digit number because the national numbering plan, the short code had still not come in. We did an experimental thing between Ahmedabad and Surat. We stay in Baroda, and Baroda was central between Ahmedabad and Surat. Took it to 5 states. This was an absolute NGO effort. There was no government help except facilitation. Corporate India through its CSR helped us, and it still does. We did not have GPS, so we created a GIS. You can see it on the picture there. The entire area was mapped. Every dhaba, every temple, masjid, gurdwara, church, everything was mapped. Every industry was mapped. And whoever needed an ambulance would call this helpline number, and we would send the nearest ambulance, crane, metal spreader to rescue an accident victim, take him to the hospital. The project was taken to 5 states through funding from CSR. And then if you see the photograph up in the corner of the slide, the gentleman sitting with me on the table, Mr. Ramalinga Raju. History would perhaps judge him differently for what went wrong with Satyam, but it was his brainchild. He wanted a CSR. He liked our idea, they say, and he picked it up. And that's how the 108 came up in the country. Our project has been studied at Harvard, Boston, and the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. We have also worked in Sri Lanka. For all of you who follow cricket, in the photograph in the bottom, dark colored photo, you would see the gentleman in the middle between me and my wife. That's Muthaiya Muralidharan. And he took it into Sri Lanka and is a brand ambassador for emergencies in Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, India still is supposed to get a brand ambassador for road traffic accidents. I wish all of you can convince celebrities in your respective states to have a brand ambassador. It'll do a lot of good if you get a brand ambassador. You know, every other social cause has a brand ambassador except road safety, unfortunately. What are SDGs? I don't know how many of you have really come across SDGs, because we work in a sector where SDGs we think are not important. But the Sustainable Development Goals, as they call it, were born at the United Nations conference in Rio de Janeiro, which is the capital of Brazil, in 2012. A city of Brazil, sorry, not the capital. And 2012, they started deliberating on it. The objective was very clear: produce a set of universal goals that meet the urgent environmental, political, and economic challenges facing our world. So that is when they started working on it. But uske pehle, there used to be something called the Millennium Development Goals. 8 goals थे, 2000 में United Nations ने इनको approve किया था, and they ran till 2015. These were 8 goals, but the primary focus was on reducing income poverty, hunger, disease, HIV included, lack of adequate shelter and exclusion. At the same time, it did promote gender equality, health, education, and environmental sustainability. But the goal was in reducing income poverty, hunger, and infectious diseases. Over time, the United Nations and participating countries realized that you needed a more inclusive thing. Though MDGs, the Millennium Development Goal, achieved a lot, more than 1 billion people have been lifted out of extreme poverty since 1990. Child mortality has dropped by half. HIV infections fell by 40%. That was a remarkable achievement. बहुत ही important achievement है कि HIV को इतना reduce कर पाए, child mortality को 50% कर पाए, और school dropouts को half कर पाए वो. आप अगर देखेंगे तो this is what the Millennium Development Goals achieved. लेकिन काफी gap रह गया because it was not inclusive, because it was just focused on 8 elements. Given the success of MDGs, this conference of United Nations in 2012 decided to adopt something called the Sustainable Development Goals. And these are the Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 goals, 17 goal hai. The best part of it is they not only replaced it, but they came in force in 2016, 1st January, while the United Nations had adopted it in September 2015. 3 mahine ke andar they could initialize it. The SDGs are more comprehensive and address the root cause of poverty and other global challenges. They are much more inclusive. The idea is no one should be left behind. While the MDGs just looked at, the Millennium Development Goals just looked at the developing countries, SDGs, every country was included, including something like Netherlands, which Shailesh said has very low accidents. Unko bhi include kiya gaya. So SDGs are sort of universal. They're inclusive, emphasizing human rights and partnership, and they're broader in scope. 17 SDGs हैं और हर एक SDGs के targets हैं. So 169 target है, 169 targets and 17 SDGs. The great part of SDGs is they look at disaggregated data. They are not looking at the world together. Every country has its own data. Roshan Singh ji, please अगर आप mute करें तो. Thank you. So SDGs look at every country separately. So what works in Netherlands might not work in India. What works in US might not work in UK. So they're looking at it differently. And unlike the MDGs, which primarily targeted developing countries, as I said, SDGs looked at all countries, including developed ones. The 17 goals are all interconnected. Success in one affects the success for others. That is the beauty of SDGs. चाहे आप रोड सेफ्टी की बात करें, चाहे आप पॉवर्टी की बात करें, चाहे आप गुड वाटर सैनिटेशन की बात करें, दे आर ऑल इंटरकनेक्टेड. और मैं आपको बताता हूं किस तरह से हाउ दे आर इंटरकनेक्टेड. सो इफ यू लुक एट दिस एसडीजी क्या मैप, आई नीड टू प्ले दिस. ओके, इफ यू लुक एट number 5, so gender equality and good health, number 3, if you look at them together, they would affect road safety and they would affect no poverty, because in a way health, if somebody falls ill, a lot of money is got in out of pocket expenses. It's the same way if you look at reducing inequalities, and if you look at sustainable cities and affordable and clean energy, you look at life and land. So आप अगर 10, 11 और 7 को इफेक्ट करते हैं तो आप 15 को इफेक्ट करते हैं. आप अगर 16 को और 12 को इफेक्ट करते हैं तो आप 2 को इफेक्ट करते हैं. So that is how the SDGs are entwined with each other. लेकिन हम अभी we'll just talk of these two SDGs which affect road safety directly, besides the other four that I'll talk about later. Number 3, good health and well-being, and number 11, sustainable cities and communities. How does it affect? So आप अगर देखेंगे good health and well-being, a direct target of that SDG is 3.6. Good health and well-being is number 3, and SDG target 3.6 says halving the number of global deaths and injuries from road traffic accidents. It's a direct target of the SDG. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities, has target 11.2, which talks about providing access to safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport systems for all, improving road safety, notably by expanding public transport with special attention to the needs of those vulnerable situations: women, children, persons with disabilities, and older persons. Very clear cut targets these SDGs have given on road safety. If you look at 3.6, as I said, they are disaggregated data. Every country has to look after its own data. So if you look at this data from road accidents of 2017 on the WHO website, you will see different countries has different rates. अब पूरे ग्लोबली सबको रिड्यूस नहीं करना है साथ में, हर एक कंट्री अपना रिड्यूस करेगा टू हाफ इट, बिकॉज इफ यू लुक एट इट ग्रीनलैंड में शायद एक्सीडेंट ही नहीं है, जीरो है. अप इन द नॉर्थ ईयर इट हैज नो एक्सीडेंट्स. So that is how you look at SDGs. Every country has to look at its own, and there are countries with India and China with a lot of accidents. They have to reduce their half. So it's not a global half you're looking at. You're looking at reducing अपने देश में जो है उसको हाफ करो. उसके अलावा भी SDGs है जो रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड रोड सेफ्टी को अफेक्ट करता है. SDG नंबर 4, यहाँ आप देख सकते हैं, इट सेज सेफ एक्सेस टू क्वालिटी एजुकेशन, सेफर रोड्स टू एंड फ्रॉम स्कूल. सो इट्स डेफिनेटली सेइंग बच्चों का ध्यान रखना चाहिए, बच्चों के लिए रोड सेफ्टी जरूरी है. नंबर 5, जेंडर इक्वालिटी. द फर्स्ट बुलेट टॉक्स अबाउट सेफ स्पेसेस फॉर गर्ल्स एंड वुमेन. Safe spaces also includes public transport spaces, and that's a very important enforcement duty. SDG number 10 जो ऊपर है, reduced inequalities. It says, अगर आप थर्ड पॉइंट देखें, women's right to move safely. Again, road safety comes in, public transport comes in, and again becomes an enforcement issue. SDG number 13, climate action. आप सोचेंगे climate action से क्या है? It again has road transport, better air quality, which means PUCs, जो बहुत important है, less noise, vehicles के, climate protection, they all affect road safety and road transport. So अगर आप देखते हैं तो there are 6 SDGs that have targets for road transport, but 3 of them, SDG 3, which has a direct target, जैसे मैंने आपको ये दिखाया पहले, half the number of deaths. Number 11, which is again another direct target, and number 4, which talks of safe roads and to and from school, which again is a direct target for road safety. And I'll deal with the number 4 now, quality education. These are the things that are targeted there. Reduce vehicle speeds around schools, जो एक enforcement issue है. Improve safety for children on crossing roads, again an enforcement and engineering issue. Promote sustainable mobility, encourage children to use safer routes and more sustainable modes of transportation. Very important, क्योंकि इंडिया में रिक्शाज में, ऑटो रिक्शाज में 10-12 बच्चे को ठूस के ले जाते हैं, which is a big hazard. So this SDG talks about sustainable mobility. And finally, prioritize children's rights. Recognize children as equal users of public spaces and transport. हम ये भूल जाते हैं कि बच्चे भी रास्ते पे हैं और उनका भी हक है सेफ ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए. Number 5, gender equality also talks about it, जैसे मैंने कहा, and a big, very important role for enforcement authorities here in provide gender responsive training. बसों में, ट्रेनों में धक्का धक्की होता है, औरतों को छेड़खानी होती है, all those things happen. Again, an enforcement issue. Create women run police stations, जो आप लोग सब कर रहे हैं. Recruit women help desk, again, country and every state is doing great on that. And coordinate with other services so that violence against women and girls in public transport is reduced. So SDGs करने के बाद क्या हुआ? 2-3 important चीज हुए. एक होगा, and definitely आप लोग सुना होगा, there was a decade of action for road safety, which was from 2011 to 2020, जिसमें कहा गया था कि 50% deaths reduce करें. उसी को after this SDG came up, United Nations and UN General Assembly said हम एक second decade of action for road safety करें, जो आप यहाँ देख पाओगे, second decade of action for road safety 2021 से 2030. यानी 2020 का जो टारगेट था, जो हम अचीव नहीं कर पाए, अब उसको 2030 पे ले जाना है और इस बार तो डेफिनेटली अचीव करना है। आपको लग रहा है कि हम अचीव कर चुके हैं, बट ये मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट का, ब्यूरो ऑफ होम अफेयर्स का ये स्टैटिस्टिक्स है, एनसीआरबी का। आप देखेंगे 2015 में अगर डेथ रेट 11.81 था, 2022 में 12.4 हुआ है। सिर्फ एक बार डिप हुआ है 10 के बीच नीचे 2020 में, दैट वाज बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड, not because of any other intervention. So in a way, we have not done good as far as the Millennium Development Goals and the first decade was concerned. So that is where SDG and the second decade becomes very important for all of us, including the enforcement officials. The second fallout was that a global road safety performance targets aa gaye, which WHO in collaboration with UN agencies created this 12 voluntary global road safety program targets, which is I'll detail later, but which is very important. ये 12 टारगेट्स है जो आप लेफ्ट हैंड ऑफ द स्क्रीन देख सकते हैं. I'll come to it later. एक एक करके मैं बात करूंगा. But what is more important is this middle thing, stages. हर एक टारगेट का एक स्टेज दिया गया है कि पहले आप एक्शन लेंगे, उसके बाद आप आउटकम देखेंगे और उसका इम्पैक्ट देखेंगे. That is what every one of us need to do to reduce deaths on highways and city and urban roads. So now that we have understood SDG, let's talk about the other part, the burden of emergencies in India. ज़्यादा मैं नहीं कहूँगा क्योंकि आप सबको ये पता है. So 11% of global road traffic deaths इंडिया में होते हैं. Road accidents in India, the last data 2022 talks about 4,61,000 accidents, 1,68,000 deaths. When we started work, it was 1,20,000. It's gone up. Persons injured in India is continuously going up, 4,43. 3% of India's GDP annually is gone in road accidents, just not deaths, but damage to property, damage to roads, everything. And road traffic injuries are the leading cause of death for people in aged 5 to 29. All of you, आप सबको पहले पता होगा, पढ़ा होगा, देखा होगा, सुना होगा. 15 साल या 10 साल पहले हम कहते थे 15 to 40 is the most vulnerable age. अब 5 से 29 हो गया है. So there has been a change in demography. Younger and younger people are dying on roads now. Statistics, आप अगर ये 3 सर्कल्स ओवल्स देखें, हाईवेज की हम बात करते हैं. Highways, just 5% of total roads in India is highways, state and national. लेकिन they account for 55% of accidents and 63% of deaths. Just 5% of the roads account for 55% of accidents and 63% of deaths, which in a way is a very bad figure to think of. This is something that gets a bit technical. शैलेश जी ने कहा मैं आपको simplify करके बताऊं. जब एक कभी भी एक्सीडेंट होता है, when an accident happens, out of 100 people, 50% die immediately on the spot. Severe head injuries, spine injuries, एक बड़ा सा टायर, ट्रक का टायर has gone over the chest, crush injuries, 50% die on the spot. You cannot do anything and anything to help them. It's the 30% and this 20% which you can save. The next 30% die within hours because they have had bleeding, infection has come in, वो late transportation हुआ, late hospital पहुंचे, that kills the rest of the 30%. The last 20% die because of sepsis and multi-organ failure. These are the 250% that we definitely can save. This is published work across the world. There is an unpublished work, which is this, आप ये photo देख रहे हैं, 90% are brought dead. All of you perhaps see and hear people saying that when an accident happens, is the slideshow off? I just got a prompt from somebody. Slides दिख रहे हैं ना? मनोज जी? Slides दिख रहे हैं? मनोज जी? कहाँ से गए?
Now we are able to see the slides. Subroto sir. Subroto sir, am I audible, sir?
Hello.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible. You can see the slides.
Sir, now we are able to see the slides. Now it's gone. The global goals. Now 17 goals interconnect.
Okay, fine.
And now the global goals.
तो आप कहाँ तक देख पाए थे?
सर स्लाइड भी चली गई थी, मैंने मैसेज कर दिया था, फिर वो अभी आ गई हैं सर. आप तो कंटिन्यू रखिए सर, मैं स्लाइड शेयर भी कर दूंगा ग्रुप में सर.
ठीक है, फाइन, ओके
सर.
30. So 31 जैसे मैं कह रहा था, I don't know whether you have seen this slide. So when deaths happen, 50% of the deaths happen immediately. Crush injuries, head injuries, spine injuries go on happening. There's something going wrong. Yeah.
दिख रही हैं सर अब. Safety
हाँ,
advice, protecting vulnerable road users, model peak of death.
हाँ, I'm on the tri-modal peak of death. ठीक है?
हाँ, tri-modal peak of death is visible, sir.
ठीक है. So as I was saying, 50% of the people die immediately on the spot. 30% die within hours because of bleeding बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है, ruptured spleen है, liver खराब हो, fracture हुआ है, pelvic injuries है. So that is how they die. And the rest 20% die within a week or month of an accident. Infection आ गया है, sepsis हो गया है, multi-organ function हो गया है, death हो. So that is how they die. But ये जो मैंने आपको, मैं फिर से रिपीट कर लूंगा एक बार, 90% of the times जब आप सुनते हैं कि एक patient has been brought dead into a hospital, डॉक्टर जब कहता है he is dead, 90%, 100 में से 90% लोग are already dead at the time of being put in an ambulance. इन सबको हम definitely बचा सकते हैं. The major causes of road accident deaths in 2021, आप अगर देखेंगे तो this is basically a behavioral issue. 55.9% is because of overspeeding. 27.5% are because of reckless driving, overtaking. Other causes which are roads, engineering causes is 9.9%. Then poor weather conditions, mechanical defects in motor vehicles. These are small things, but they all add up. Vulnerable road users. I'll go to the next. Vulnerable road users in India. 58% of all road traffic fatalities are vulnerable road users. What are vulnerable road users? Who are not in a protective shell of a vehicle. जैसे टू व्हीलर हुआ, बाइसाइकिल हो, उनका एक प्रोटेक्टिव शील्ड नहीं है. आप जब गाड़ी में बैठे हो, अब मेटल प्रोटेक्टिव शील्ड है. आप जब ट्रक में, बस में बैठे हो, एक शील्ड है आपको प्रोटेक्ट करता हुआ. पर वल्नरेबल रोड यूजर्स के पास कोई शील्ड नहीं होता. 17% is pedestrians, two wheelers or three wheelers are 37%, auto rickshaws, and others are cyclists, 4%. These are the people who are more vulnerable, and if you look at the deaths, 58% of all road traffic fatalities come from that group. Globally, this is a global slide, nothing to do with India, but it applies to India. आप अगर right top में देखोगे, तो more than half of all pedestrian deaths are 65 and above. Elderly people, buzurg, are most vulnerable, and children under 5 are most vulnerable. If you look at the left side, 60 child pedestrians are killed or seriously injured every week across the world. 57% of cyclists have accidents, and motorcycles are 1% of all traffic, only 1% of all traffic, but account for 19% of all road accidents. These are all very vulnerable road users. इसके अलावा भी there are some major contributors to deaths, which as police officials you must be encountering. So I've just put a slide. Deaths in 2022, 21,000 people died of poisoning, 50,000 people died of snake bites, and fall from height is 23,786. These are construction injuries, these are injuries in industries, but the numbers are huge, and they all are medical legal cases. One major thing that you need to think about dealing is hazardous material interventions. When chemical spillages happen, when tankers catch fire, we do not have a mechanism to help. And that is something all of you need to look at, because sustainable development goals also talk about pollution, also talk about environmental issues when such spillages happen. अब हम देखते हैं कि हमारे पास रिसोर्सेज क्या है और लॉज ऑफ द कंट्री कितना हमको हेल्प करता है इस एसडीजीज को टू अचीव देम. द रिसोर्सेज, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, आप लोगों को दिख रहा है ना स्लाइड्स मनोज जी?
सर
I'm
दिख
just
रहा है
checking.
स्लाइड सर.
So resources, आप अगर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देखें तो एम्बुलेंसेज बहुत है इंडिया में. I'll come to the next slide and tell you कितने हैं. बट एम्बुलेंसेज, एडवांस लाइफ सपोर्ट एम्बुलेंस, बेसिक लाइफ सपोर्ट एम्बुलेंस, प्राइवेट एम्बुलेंसेज, सब कुछ है. ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज देखें तो इमरजेंसी फिजिशियंस काफी कम है इंडिया में. हर 1,75,000 नागरिकों पे सिर्फ एक इमरजेंसी फिजिशियन है. इफ यू लुक कंपेयर द डेटा विद यूएस, इट इज 1 in 15,000. दैट इज हाउ द स्टैटिस्टिक्स आर. पैरामेडिक्स, हमारे यहाँ कोई पैरामेडिक करके है नहीं. सो आप अगर बॉटम लेफ्ट ऑफ द स्लाइड देखोगे, देयर इज नो एस्टिमेशन ऑफ द पैरामेडिक्स, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ ईएमटीज या पैरामेडिक्स का कोई नियम नहीं है इस देश में. सो कोई भी पैरामेडिक बनता है, एंड दैट इज अ डेंजरस थिंग व्हिच अगेन it goes against the SDG, because SDG asks for licensing. Current status of 108, आप सब 108 तो जानते हैं. स्टार्टेड ऑफ इन 2005. गुजरात में वो 2007 में आया. दैट वाज द फर्स्ट स्केलिंग अप इन गुजरात, एंड it covers nearly 904 million people in the country, total of 8,000 more ambulances, and भारत के nearly 89% of India is covered by, or 92% of India is covered by ambulances. 108. This is the map of 108. You'll find them everywhere. But the interesting part of the graph is, आप ये ग्राफ को देखेंगे, इस ग्राफ के जो राइट साइड पे है, दैट इज द वर्ल्ड स्टैंडर्ड, WHO स्टैंडर्ड है, और लेफ्ट साइड पे इंडिया के स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं. एंड यू वुड रियलाइज इंडिया इज, ईच स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया is doing better than what the world standards are. So as far as ambulances are concerned, we are doing very well globally. Yes, ambulance standards are sometimes very dicey, not very good, but number of ambulances in the country are very good as compared to international standards. Laws of the country, I'll just briefly tell you. आप लोग सब जानते हैं, मुझसे ज्यादा जानते हैं laws के बारे में. You know much more than me. But Article 21 and 47 of the Constitution gives you a right to life. And it is the obligation of a state to protect one's life. It is the obligation of state to improve public health. That is one of the fundamental things of our constitution. The second thing is judicial interventions kya hue hain. The first time somebody talked about road traffic accident was in 1989. You must have heard of this gentleman, Parmanand Katara, Supreme Court ke advocate the. He saw a scooterist, picked him up in Delhi and went to some 11 hospitals, and everyone refused and the person died. And that is where he filed a PIL. And that PIL gave a landmark judgment which said the golden hour is important and no doctor can refuse an accident victim. No doctor in the country can refuse an accident victim. It was a very important judgment. Gujarat mein, I mean, a couple of gentlemen are from Gujarat. Here, Gujarat has an EMS Act, Emergency Medical Services Act, which was promulgated in 2007, and it's still the only state to have this act. I wish other states do it. If there are gentlemen from Assam, we work in Assam very closely with Mr. Gaurav Upadhyay, lead agency of road safety, and aapke DG, Mr. GP Singh, and we are trying to get a similar act there. So that's very important. The Good Samaritan guidelines, all of you know about it, so I won't talk on this. 2015 में ये guidelines आए, which allows a bystander to help an accident victim. The National Ambulance Code. If you see this photograph on the left side, हमारे पुराने ambulances कैसे हुआ करते थे. I mean, सेटी था, सोफा था, स्ट्रेचर की हालत खराब थी. The National Ambulance Code that came up gives you ALS and BLS ambulances. So our ambulances have improved. There's a 1033 helpline now for highways. All of you know it. Gadkari Saab has started it off. The Supreme Court Committee on Road Safety, all of you must be aware of it because you must be members of this. The formation of District Road Safety Committees in accordance of Section 215 of the Motor Vehicle Act. Gujarat has a very good road safety authority, and it is my request to all of you to perhaps study the Gujarat Road Safety Authority model. It's a brilliant organization and it does very good work on engineering, enforcement, education, and emergency care. Assam has a lead safety agency. The 3-4 states have very good work on these nodal agencies. I wish every state has one. Amendment of the Motor Vehicle Act, again, is, you know much more than me. आप लोगों को मुझसे ज़्यादा जानकारी है, इसलिए इस पे मैं कुछ कहूँगा नहीं. The next thing is 4 E's of road safety. my final idea is to amalgamate road safety and the SDGs. So 4 E's जानना जरूरी है. So if you look at the 4 E's, this is how I look at the E's: engineering, education and emergency care, and enforcement. Enforcement मैंने vertically इसलिए रखा है क्योंकि enforcement is everywhere. ऐसा कोई जगह नहीं है जहां enforcement नहीं हो सकता. Engineering में भी enforcement है, and I'll give you examples. So engineering, roads and vehicles के होते हैं, and again, it's a topic for engineers, not this group. But what engineering you should look at as an enforcement agency, as enforcement personnel, is that the objective of engineering has to be scientific and aligned with the SDG goal. हमारे यहाँ engineering के बहुत issues आते हैं जो scientific नहीं है. उसके उदाहरण, that example I'll give you later. Road safety education is usually aimed at children, but should be also aimed at adults and delivered in various contexts. हमारे वहाँ एक ढांचा है, we just go by the same thing. Road safety weeks are celebrated with rallies with children and ये वो. That needs to change. Just not schools, colleges, but even sporting clubs and workplaces, offices, factories should be, road safety education should go there, into factories, into colleges, into workspaces, offices. एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है कि इट शुड नॉट बी सीन एज द प्राइमरी वे टू रिड्यूस रोड क्रैशेस. हमें लगता है कि एजुकेशन कर दिया रोड क्रैशेस बंद हो जाएंगे, वैसा नहीं है. ह्यूमन बीइंग्स पर से विल ब्रेक रूल्स. हमारी आदत है कि हम रूल्स तोड़े, एंड वी नीड टू गो बियॉन्ड एजुकेशन टू एनफोर्समेंट टू गेट दिस. Evidence indicates that education has limited overall impact on reducing crashes. हमें लगता है लोगों को हमने एडुकेट कर दिया, बच्चों को समझा दिया, पेरेंट्स को समझा दिया, लेकिन वो फिर से रूल तोड़ेंगे. एंड across the world, education has, out of the 4 E's, is the least effective out of it. So ये ध्यान रखना बहुत जरूरी है that education out of the 4 E's is the least effective. The 4th E, emergency medical services. It's a very simple thing. Very simple thing. It's not complicated at all. What it says is anything by the right treatment by the right people at the right place, the right time, and the right care. That is all emergency medical services is. ये 4 अगर आप याद रखिए, if you remember these 4 things, everything is done. All of you must have seen this symbol on ambulances. Manoj ji, the slides are visible, na?
Me, sir.
You can see the slides.
I'm able to see this. I'm able to see, sir.
Fine, thanks. Okay. So all of you must have seen this on ambulances. This has a reason. कोई designer ने नहीं बनाया है इसको, but each of this staff, each of this pointed thing has a reason. So number 1, ऊपर early detection. This is what emergency service is about. You detect an accident, do it early. Then immediately as you detect an accident, report it. Call the ambulances, call policemen. That is what the education should be. So education is just not about traffic rules. Education needs to go beyond it. How to call an ambulance, when to call an ambulance. Once an ambulance is called, at site care hona bahut zaruri. It's very important that you have on site care. Otherwise, waiting for an ambulance and let a person bleed to death has no meaning. Ambulance is just not a transport vehicle, it's a medical transport vehicle, it's a life-saving transport vehicle, and every one of us need to understand that there has to be treatment during transport. We forget that. So take an ambulance which can provide treatment and just not a vehicle, and you need to transfer to definitive care. Very important for police officials. Most of the times we send a victim to the nearest hospital. It is very important to understand that you cannot send an accident victim with a head injury to a gynecologist or to a physician. You need to send it to a place where a head injury can be treated. Somebody with a broken knee has to be sent to an orthopedic. He cannot be sent to the nearest hospital, which is a pediatric hospital. But that is what ambulances make the mistake. This is the nearest hospital, let's send it. We send it to a CHC, a community health center. We send it to a primary health center, villages mein, highways pe. They would not even have an anesthetist. They would not have an orthopedic surgeon, and the patient loses time. So please, all of you understand in emergency care, one of the most important thing is transfer to definitive care and care during transit. One thing you all need to understand is about ambulances. Ambulance is not a magical cure. It is a medical transportation vehicle, and दुनिया में कोई देश नहीं है जहां ICU on wheels है. इंडिया में ही सिर्फ होता है, because आप in a traveling vehicle, in a moving vehicle, you can never give treatment like you can give in an intensive care ICU में. You have to understand that and not waste money on ICU vehicles when you're buying them. The golden hour. Every one of us talk about golden hour. Where we make a mistake is we think golden hour mein we should reach an ambulance. Golden hour में फर्स्ट एड देना चाहिए. No, that is not the thing. आप अगर ये सेकंड लाइन पढ़ेंगे, golden hour says that patient has to be in surgery room in the operation theater within 1 hour. That should be the goal of the golden hour. Golden hour does not mean कि आपने सिर्फ फर्स्ट एड दे दिया. उस पेशेंट को सर्जरी तक पहुंचाना, यानी इतने वक्त में पिक अप द पेशेंट, टेक हिम टू अ हॉस्पिटल, गेट द इन्वेस्टिगेशंस डन, गेट एक्सरेज डन, CT scans done, everything is supposed to be done within that hour. Looks difficult, but that is what the golden hour is. And the golden hour does not apply to cardiac issues, it does not apply to pregnant women, it applies to internal bleeding and injuries, nothing else. एक आर्टिकल है, साइंटिफिक नहीं है. अगर आप चाहे तो you can take a shot of this photograph and look at this article, and they'll tell you, this article tells you that golden hour perhaps does not even exist. Time is important. You have to get a victim to a hospital immediately as soon as possible. But a golden hour necessarily cannot be achieved. So don't waste resources in trying to achieve a golden hour. Jitne jaldi ho, time is of essence is what I'll again repeat. ये जो slide है is your best slide to understand emergency services. This is a WHO से slide है. You can again take a photograph and you can Google it. Google में मिल जाएगा. ये पूरा के पूरा it tells you from every spot, from the time of the accident till a patient reaches the hospital, what should a person do? Bystanders, providers, dispatchers, ambulance service, handover कैसे किया जाता है hospital पे, ambulance में क्या होना चाहिए, क्या नहीं होना चाहिए. This slide nearly tells you everything. It's the most descriptive slide you will ever have about emergency care. Please take a photograph and then Google it, and life will be much easier for all of you handling emergency care. I'll come down to enforcement and SDG. That's the last part of this talk. जैसे मैंने कहा, the 4 E's मैंने आपको एक स्लाइड में पहले दिखाया था. Engineering, education, emergency care, enforcement हर एक जगह पे आता है. And now I'll explain to you why enforcement is across all the 3. There is so much of overlap of enforcement in engineering, education, and emergency care, and they match with the sustainable development goals. एक स्लाइड में मैंने कहा था पहले कि one of the fallouts of this was the global and safety targets. 12 टारगेट बनाए गए थे एक बार जब ये SDG came into force for road safety. So if you look at it, there's a national action plan which many of you may be involved or may not be involved. एक global alignment, कि global दूसरे देशों में क्या हो रहा है, we need to align with that. It's the number 3 where it starts from for all of us. But before that, again, I'll remind you that action has to have an outcome and it has to have an impact. So for every action that you do, setting appropriate speed limits, raise awareness of risk of speeding, enforce speed limits, build roads with speed, calming measures, there has to be an outcome which is reduction in mean travel speed perhaps. अगर आप speed की बात कर रहे हैं, और उसका impact क्या है? How many people have been saved or how many lesser accidents have happened? So for every action that you take as an enforcement agency, have an outcome prepared and have an impact analysis done. That will help you to understand whether the action was correct. So we are looking at number 3, number 4, and number 5 on the engineering part of enforcement. जैसे मैंने कहा, enforcement is everywhere. What does it mean? Engineers, PWDs, RNB, NHI, they build roads. You would say enforcement की यहाँ क्या ज़रूरत है? How does enforcement come in? This is where enforcement comes in. When there are potholes, when there are speed breakers, when there are unnecessarily big humps, deaths happen, accidents happen. That is where you can enforce. किसी ने कहीं divider तोड़ दिया, that's an enforcement issue. Somebody has created a bump. Indian Road Congress, which is the official body for deciding engineering aspects, tells you that the height of a speed breaker should not be more than 10 centimeters, 1/10 of a meter. But हमारे speed breakers इतने ऊंचे बनाए जाते हैं. That is where an enforcement can come in as part of the sustainable development goal. You need to reduce the height of the speed breaker. That's where a police official can make a huge difference. The width of a speed breaker has to be 3.7 meters. इतना चौड़ा होना चाहिए, 3.7 meter, so that vehicles don't jump. Most of the times, speed breakers are 1 or 2 meters wide, which damages vehicles, hurts people with back pains. Again, it's an enforcement issue where such speed breakers should be broken down, or the road builder should be told to rectify it. Guardrails कहीं भी डाल देते हैं, dividers कहीं भी डाल देते हैं, dividers को तोड़ देते हैं. These are all enforcement issues, and these are engineering issues where enforcement plays a vital role. The number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 behavioral aspects of road safety: speeding, motorcycle helmets, vehicle occupant protection, driving under alcohol influence or any other drugs, distraction by mobile phone are all enforcement issues, and they need to be targeted. And these are the 12 targets जिसमें जैसे what I told you earlier, right from 3 to 12 enforcement comes in, and they need to be. Just to give you an example, 2021 and 2022, overspeeding, the number of deaths have increased. Drunk driving increased. Wrong side driving increased. Using mobile phone, that has increased. Jumping traffic signal, phenomenally increased. So everywhere behavioral issues can be tightened with education and enforcement, and that is what is very important for all enforcement officials to understand that. Education. जैसे मैंने कहा, education is just not talking about safety rules, driving rules, signages. It's much more. It's about matching road safety with the health and bridging the gap in road safety inequality. How do women and men use roads? How do children and adults use roads? Has to be taught. And your education should include these things if you have to achieve the sustainable development goals. We talk about traffic rules. हम सबको traffic rule पढ़ाते हैं. But beyond traffic rules, you also need to educate children and adults about risk awareness, about personal safety. Helmet is just one part of the personal safety. चप्पल पहन के लोग चलाते हैं. I know क्या कर सकते हैं is a very issue, but when you drive without shoes, you tend to injure your feet much more. दूसरे की सेफ्टी तो हम सोचते ही नहीं है. Vulnerable users के बारे में हम सोचते नहीं है. We don't think of an elderly person crossing a road. These are all education things. When you talk about education, as police officials, when you're talking to schools, when you're talking to colleges, tell these people to recognize a vulnerable user. Like one small child, how does he cross a road? His behaviors. How does an elderly person, uska kya risk hai? This needs to be taught in road safety education. Practical skills need to be demonstrated. Helmet ka selection kaise hona chahiye, that needs to be told to them. Helmet pehno, wear a helmet is fine, but use the proper helmet selection. How many of you really would go out and do that? That's very important. Tell people how to cross the road. When we were in school, and I'm sure when all of you were in school, we were told to look at the left, the right, and the left. It is not taught in schools anymore before crossing. These needs to come back. The laws of the country, and most importantly, when to call for an ambulance. Most people don't know when to call for an ambulance. They see an accident without even seeing if anybody is injured. Fat karke people will start calling up ambulance. And when they see the person is fit, kuch hua nahi hai, the person gets up, gets back on his bike or into his car and goes away. Nobody calls the ambulance control room to say, no, we don't need an ambulance. You waste an ambulance calling for unnecessary. People don't know when to call for an ambulance, what to do when an ambulance comes in, and where to call. That's very important. Education should include all this when we're talking of it. A very important thing that I've realized over time is 29% of deaths are of women, 71% deaths are of men. It's a very skewed thing. But there's a very important thing in this. Women are more, we think women are less on the streets, that's why accidents happen less. That is not the correct thing. Women are more safety conscious and health conscious, and that is why the number of their accidents also are less. And one of those things that we have learned over time is that we need to focus on women, because women carry safety education back home. They will spread into the families, they'll talk to their children, they'll talk to their friends. Men don't do that. Most men will not carry the teachings that you teach them back home to their families and children. So it is always better to invest in road safety education to women than men. The Good Samaritan law, all of you know of it. Here is an example where education has really not helped. We have not done enough to let every Indian know that the Good Samaritan law is there. If you look at the first point, a 2021 study found that 62% of individuals still hesitated to help, which means from 2013, if you read the third line, there's been a decrease from 88% in 2013 to 62% in 2021. Kam ho gaya hai. In fact, hesitation has increased, which is not very good when you are looking at what impact education has in training people, making people aware of laws. If you look at the second point, awareness levels, from 16% in 2018, it has just gone up to 23.5%. In 3 years, we have just added 5%. That is not a good thing to have happened. Our way of educating people on road safety also should talk about the laws that the country has. This is something all of you need to remember. The last point that I wanted to talk here is on emergency care and how can enforcement come in. And that's very important to understand. जब एक accident होता है, what really happens? First response at a crash site, crowds gather, some people care, some people stop the next vehicle, some people call 108. Somebody would pick up the victim and put him in the ambulance, and then they shift to the nearest hospital. But the worrisome part is, out of 10 people, 9 would be standing and recording. And that is where enforcement can really play a big problem. We need to educate people not to record and upload. It doesn't help. This Jaipur accident of this fire, when all of you know it, everybody around that site, if you look at the CCTV cameras, was recording. I know it's a fire. You can't jump in. You can't be an Amitabh Bachchan or a Shah Rukh Khan, jaise Shailesh ji ne kaha. You can't jump into a fire to rescue. But why record? That's a mentality that takes precedence over doing any corrective action. And there's no community education. We don't educate the community around this vulnerable sites. We don't sensitize them. We don't prepare them for such accidents. And that is an education responsibility that enforcement officials should look at. Spine stabilization, like Shailesh ji said, kandhe pe leke bhago. You can't be a Shah Rukh Khan picking up a heroine on the shoulder and run. A study from Nimans in Chennai showed, Bangalore showed that only 1 to 2% of road traffic accident victims receive any first aid near the site, which is very bad. That is where lives are lost. You call an ambulance, but you don't do anything. Education and emergency care by law enforcement officials should also stress on this, that we need to do something about this. On-field triaging does not exist in India. I don't know how many of you have heard of this word. If it was an in-person lecture, I would have talked about it. I would have demonstrated what it is. But triaging means if 10 people are injured, who needs to be sent to a hospital first? The person who is unconscious and dying, the person who will die in 2 minutes, or the person who has a chance of survival if he is taken to a hospital. We somehow miss that. So the important thing to learn here is that when resources are limited, when you have just one ambulance that has come in and there are 10 people injured, find out who needs to go to the hospital first. That is very, very important. And we miss that out. There is a very protocolized way of triaging. You can all Google it. Wikipedia will tell you. I know Wikipedia is not the best source, but for simplification, Wikipedia will tell you what triaging is. So when 10 people are injured and only 1 or 2 ambulances come in, you need to be scientific about whom to transport first to the hospital. The person you know is going to die in 2 minutes. Let us not waste resources on him. वैसे भी मर जाएगा, even if you get him the best ambulance. I know it sounds inhuman, but at the same time, you need to be practical, that the person who has a chance of survival of 30 minutes should be sent to the hospital, because that transportation time will give him those 30 minutes to reach a hospital. A person with a small finger injury or a toe injury or a hand injury can be sent in another vehicle, does not need to have an ambulance. He'll shout, he's in pain, but he is not the first priority you have. So triaging is very important as an education medium to say how to utilize emergency care. A major gap is lack of public awareness. As I said, advocating for emergency care, when to use emergency care is very important. When to call the service, what type of service to be called. You have a person with a heart attack, he needs an advanced life support ambulance. A person with a broken elbow does not require a life-saving ambulance. He needs a basic life-saving BLS ambulance. So you need to understand those things as you go forward, and it's very important that way. So lack of public awareness is a major gap that police and enforcement officials need to take care of it. Training and awareness, again, very important. That's us on KBC. The photograph, we were invited to play with Tapsi Pannu, and that's my son on the floor demonstrating to Mr. Amitabh Bachchan what CPR is. CPR training should be done for everybody. CPR training is just not about accidents. Heart attacks happen at home very early in the morning. Cardiac arrests happen at workplaces and offices. You're hearing more and more about cardiac arrest. CPR training is a must. Spine stabilization, as I said, is very important. Shailesh also talked about it, how spine stabilization is important. Because if you break the spine, if you break the vertebral column, you cut the spine, a person is paralyzed for life. It is worse than death. A 7 or a 10-year-old kid falling off a bicycle with a vertebral injury, spinal cord injury, you pick him up by both hands and feet and put him in an auto rickshaw, and the rickshaw takes him to the hospital. You think you have saved a life. You have cut his spine, and every nerve below that level is paralyzed forever. 7-year-old kid paralyzed for life. Death was a better alternative. As I said, when and how to initiate an ambulance, and hazardous material spillages are very important as road transport issues. You need to look at that. And come back to the quality education, the fourth SDG. You remember I told you about reduce vehicle speeds, improve safety for children crossing roads. All these things can be translated into action. Infrastructure improvement, create protective infrastructure around schools, crosswalks, completing pavement routes. These are engineering issues, you would say, but police officials need to take a look at it and say, ye galat bana hai, this has been done wrongly, the divider should not have been there, there should be a crosswalk. This is important. Consult children, their parents in the community to address their needs. When we do enforcement, we forget to consult the target group. There is no consultation process, and that is where most of the interventions are not accepted. When we start talking to groups saying this is what we're doing for you, that is where it is important. Community engagement is extremely important when you do interventions. Education, as I said, is very important. Do not think children are not smart. They are more smart than what we are perhaps, and they need to be the carriers of road safety for all of us. School streets, very important. As enforcement officials, you should look at school streets during the school opening hours and the closing hours, that there has to be restricted motorized access. That is very important. That is an SDG target that you can easily achieve. The SDGs, as I said, are universal, holistic, and people-centered, and so is road safety. Road safety has to be people-centered. Road safety has to be on the road. It has to be understood that what we talk here has to translate on the road. I'll end with a couple of more slides. We have every 2 years a conference called Motor Vehicle Accident Conference. It's a national conference. We are hosting it in 2026, not February 2025, but 2026. This is the website. This is a multi-stakeholder conference where a lot of emphasis is put on enforcement. We did one in 2020. This is the 21, and the next slide is on 2024. We have nearly 400 people attending it, but police officials are a very important thing. You will see at the top of the slide on the left, the backdrop, Gujarat Police partners it. And this is what the agenda is. Schedule day 1, if you read it closely, as I said, you could always go back to the website and see it. It talks of a lot of issues, just not emergency care or education. Different stakeholders come from nearly 30 states. We have had police, last time 88 policemen from 13 states came in to attend. This is day 2. You'll find it on the website. But this is important for police officials. We have workshops for capacity building. And the second point that you see, accident investigation for police officials. Forensic accident investigation is something that we have started. It is very, very important. The science of forensic has to come in, because a lot of times we can do a lot of justice by using that knowledge to have a far better case against an offender. So forensic accident investigation is a very important thing, and I would request all of you to be there in Ahmedabad in 2026. Trauma care workshop for stakeholders is another workshop we are doing so that you understand what trauma care is. a defensive driving workshop for police officials to understand how they can educate schools, colleges, workspaces, offices, and factories on defensive driving is very important. I'll go back again to the slide on the website for you to perhaps copy it down so that you can visit it. And I would request all of you to attend it because it's path breaking. As I said, multi-stakeholder conference with around 400 people. There's an image from one of the last activities we did. This is the last activity we did, and you can see so many policemen attending it with police officials speaking at it. That's where law enforcement is so important to the SDGs. I guess I had a long monologue. Thank you for the patient hearing. If you have any questions, you can put it on the chat, which Manoj ji can coordinate, or if anyone wants to ask, you can always feel free to ask. I'll stop sharing. Yep. Or is it sharing?
To our participants, if they have any question, please send it to the chat, so I will communicate it with sir.
I'm sorry, I must have really bored you with a long lecture. आप लोगों को forcibly सुनना पड़ा शायद.
Any questions, if you have, please write down in the chat box.
Dinakaran sir wants to ask something, but he's on mute.
Good morning, sir. Sir, good morning. Good morning.
रंजीत अनम्यूट कर दो रंजीत, तो कोई बोल पाएंगे.
हाँ सर, सबको होस्ट दे रखा है सर, सब पार्टिसिपेंट अनम्यूट हो सकते हैं सर.
हाँ सर, अपना अनम्यूट, डीएन सर अपना अनम्यूट करके बात कर लें सर, जो भी आपको क्वेश्चन पूछना है सर.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. It's a real pleasure.
सर आपको सुनना हमेशा अच्छा लगता है. कभी ऐसा नहीं है कि जो आपने कहा ना कि बोर हुआ. सर, इट वाज नॉट ए मोनोलॉग. एवरीवन वाज लर्निंग एट एवरी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. सर, जो भी आपने बोला सर, हर पॉइंट पे लोगों ने सीखा है. एंड इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट स्पेशली फॉर फोर्स पर्सनल. मैक्सिमम इसमें सर सीएपीएफ के भी जवान है, और हमारे यहाँ इतने केसेस हो रहे हैं अभी आज की डेट में. छुट्टी के दौरान लीव पे कोई हमारा जवान, इवन ऑफिसर्स भी. अभी लेटेस्ट 5-7 दिन पहले एक ऑफिसर असिस्टेंट कमांडेंट ही डाइड ऑफ रोड एक्सीडेंट सर. लीव पे था, और जस्ट इट वाज ए, मतलब बहुत दुख की बात है सर कि लीव पे जाते हैं लोग और एक्सीडेंट में अपनी जान दे देते हैं. आपने तो बताया सर, ये हमारे सबके काम का है बहुत ज्यादा.
Thank you, sir.
सर एक क्वेश्चन आया है सीपीआर के संबंध में महेंद्र कुमार यादव साहब का.
हाँ, मैंने देखा.
सीपीआर थोड़ा और बताएं सर.
महेंद्र जी, सीपीआर इज अ लाइफ सेविंग थिंग. जो आप हिंदी पिक्चर में देखते हो, जो सीपीआर दिया जाता है वो सीपीआर नहीं है. वो so if you are looking at CPR cannot be explained or taught virtually. It is like trying to teach somebody swimming. मीर फारूक साहब, आप अगर अनम्यूट करें तो. थैंक यू. महेंद्र जी, ऐसा है कि सीपीआर वर्चुअली तो सिखाया नहीं जाता. इट इज लाइक ट्राइंग टू टीच समबडी स्विमिंग वर्चुअली. कि स्विमिंग पूल में कूद जाओ, फिर हम वर्चुअली सिखाते हैं. सो सीपीआर तो आपको इन पर्सन सीखना पड़ता है. इट इज वेरी, इट्स अ लाइफ सेविंग थिंग. It increases the chances of survival, nearly doubles it. And data tells you that across the world, when cardiac arrest happen, nearly 40% people can be saved with CPR, timely CPR. So it makes a huge difference. CPR सीखना इतना difficult नहीं है. There is something called the American Heart Association. They are the most authentic body in the world to teach CPR. So I don't know आप किस राज्य में है, but I am sure किसी भी स्टेट में अमेरिकन हार्ट एसोसिएशन की अगर आप गूगल करेंगे इंडिया में इंटरनेशनल ट्रेनिंग सेंटर्स, जैसे वी आर इन गुजरात. So if you Google it, you will find somebody and you can go and train yourself. It doesn't have to be a doctor to learn CPR. It just can be anybody and everybody. Yes, don't teach CPR to school children below 10 or 15 years because they don't have the physical strength to do it. Imagine you have to press the chest wall 2.5 inches 100 times in a minute. Uh, so that takes a lot of stress. Pregnant women, people with back injuries, people with cardiac issues, and small children should not be trying to do CPR. And yes, do not ever do CPR in a chemical poisoning. You might land up getting poisoned. Post COVID, there has been a thing that mouth to mouth respiration जितना हो सके मत दीजिए. हैंड्स ऑन CPR है. आपको लग रहा है कि ऑक्सीजन नहीं जा रहा है, पर ब्लड में उतना ऑक्सीजन होता है कि पेशेंट को फिर से सर्वाइव कर सके. तो हैंड्स ऑन CPR इज द बेस्ट थिंग. माउथ टू माउथ रेस्पिरेशन, unless you know the person and that he does not have HIV, does not have other infections, you can go ahead and give it. Otherwise, create a barrier and then do mouth to mouth. Mouth to mouth avoid करे तो अच्छा है. Hands on is better.
सर एक मेरा
Sir, Dr.
Thank
K.
you very much,
Jayanti, sir, Puducherry se wants to ask the question, but I think Jayanti sir, आप unmute हो गए sir? Sir.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
हाँ जी सर, आवाज आ रही, पूछे सर.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Please go ahead.
First of all, I would like to thank for giving such a wonderful presentation, sir. Basically,
Thank you,
I'm a
ma'am.
professor working for a university. And when you were telling about the 4 E's, I belong to engineering as domain. So really, I was so excited to hear your talk. And I just wanted to ask a question, like, because all these operations, you were talking about shifting the victim to the ambulance, and it has to be, it is a time critical operation, and so decision has to be taken correctly. I personally have felt this many times, like generally common public will only be there in that particular spot, and we don't have the awareness like whom to treat first. So such a kind of training can also be given, and this material, this content, what you have told here in this closed forum, can also be extended to the common public as well. That's what I feel like. Many points when you were telling, though I have myself experienced it, it is new to me. Like, yes, and this is a point where I have made a mistake last time. Like that, I start finding out all the points. So like what I would suggest from our side is that we can, like decision making is a biggest trouble there for saving lives. So can we have some, nowadays we have Google assistants like that, we can have AI assistants to make some decision, because everybody will be in a very excited and emotional state. So they may not be in a position to take a correct decision. So I feel it's more appropriate that we have some kind of artificial intelligence playing a role over there to make a decision, at least like what to do first. Something like that can be done. Or
Ma'am, can I respond?
yeah, sure, sir. I'm just talking
Yeah.
to you.
So, ma'am,
I'm trying to find out.
let me put it. What you're saying is right. Ignorance is perhaps the key reason for fear, and fear is the key reason for hesitancy. If you know what to do, you then are not hesitant to do it. The laws of the country are very clear. So there are two aspects to it. One is the technical part, one is the legal part of not helping a victim or not knowing what to do. The legal part is very clear. If you are not a doctor or you are not a licensed nurse, you can go and try to save an accident victim. You might do it wrong. There is no guarantee that even a doctor might always do it right. But if as a non-medical, non-licensed personnel, if you do make a mistake, the law will not harass you because you're doing it in good faith. So that's a protection non-medicos have, and they should, I suppose, capitalize on it. Having said that, knowledge is important. And the problem with first aid or any life-saving training is doing it virtually has no meaning. So it has to be done in person for people to understand what to do of a CPR, how to pick up a victim, how to perhaps look at a fractured limb, how to splint it. That is the biggest challenge of trauma care, where it has to be done firsthand. I don't know if there are any gentlemen or lady from Assam, but in Assam, along with the lead agency of road safety and the transport department, we are training every RTO, every district transport officer, and every policeman around now those 11 toll plazas in Assam and Meghalaya on primary trauma care. We are training every Ayush doctor in Gujarat like we did. We are doing it in Assam. So training is very important. And I think there would be organizations in Puducherry who could, or in Chennai, who could easily come and do it at the university. And so training is important and it cannot be done virtually. About AI guiding you, as you rightly said, it's a very emotional thing when an accident happens. And I always say, when an accident happens, every person around there becomes an expert. Like all Indians who follow cricket are experts in selecting the national cricket team. Is the same way. Everybody becomes an expert when it comes to kya karna hai on the road. And trauma care is a very political issue because it's on the road with the media, with everybody there, unlike a cardiac surgery, which happens in closed doors in an operation theater. So training is the only way out. On the spot, AI really is not a help. Nowhere in the world.
One more gentleman, sir.
I-
Mulgir sir wanted to ask a question.
सर थैंक यू सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था सर
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful response. I wanted to, before
sure.
the next speaker, next person could ask the question. And my view was that I wanted to bring AI for making a decision as what to do next. It is not to substitute the human shifting the life-saving case. It was basically like what decision I have to take next, because I'm totally crumbled into pieces. So some assistant comes, tell me this you do. Some instruction has to come like that. I was thinking, and in that perspective, I want AI to be applied. That is what I wanted to convey. Maybe I have not conveyed it clearly, or
No,
I don't know.
no, ma'am, you did convey it. It's just that I have reservations on AI being used on the ground without any prior training.
Okay,
That's
okay.
all.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful response and your presentation. It was completely a very good, because totally I'm new to this and I got that awareness. It was very simple. Anybody can easily understand it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, ma'am.
Mulgir sir.
थैंक यू सर सर सबसे पहले तो बहुत अच्छा क्लास रहा सर आपका लेक्चर थैंक यू उसके लिए सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था आपने एक बीच में बताया था कि गोल्डन आवर इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आपको वहां पर फर्स्ट एड टाइमली देना आपको सर्जरी रूम तक पहुंचाना ये होता है इम्पोर्टेंट होता है तो उसमें जैसे एक मेरा ये था कि जैसे लाइफ थ्रेटनिंग प्रॉब्लम जैसे ब्लीडिंग हो रही है पेशेंट की तो उस केस में तो इम्पोर्टेंट ये हो जाता है कि पेशेंट को उस समय स्टेबल किया जाए सर थोड़ा इसके बारे में थोड़ा बताइए
हाँ सर एक लेट मी क्लैरिफाई मैंने ये नहीं कहा कि आप स्टेबलाइज नहीं करेंगे ब्लीडिंग नहीं रोकेंगे फ्रैक्चर को स्प्लिंट नहीं करेंगे सीपीआर अगर हार्ट बंद हो गया तो सीपीआर नहीं देंगे मैंने ये कहा कि 1 घंटे में सिर्फ फर्स्ट एड नहीं देना है 1 घंटे में आपका एम होना चाहिए कि पेशेंट को सर्जरी तक ले जाए और उसमें क्या क्या आता है एक्सीडेंट देखा आपने इमीडिएटली कॉल किया हेल्प के लिए पल्स नहीं मिल रहा है आपने सीपीआर किया ब्लीडिंग हो रहा है ब्लीडिंग को बंद किया तब तक एम्बुलेंस आ गया एम्बुलेंस में डाला पेशेंट को और एम्बुलेंस में जाते हुए भी आप ट्रीटमेंट करते रहेंगे आप हॉस्पिटल को जान करेंगे कि एक पेशेंट आ रहा है क्योंकि ऐसा काफी बार होता है बिलीव मी बहुत बार होता है आप सबने शायद एक्सपीरियंस किया होगा या सुना होगा पेशेंट को हॉस्पिटल लिया जाता है डॉक्टर छुट्टी पे या दूसरा कोई सर्जरी चल रहा है एक ऑपरेशन थिएटर बंद है एक सर्जरी को बंद करके तो आपका पेशेंट को नहीं लेगा सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स कहाँ ले जा रहे हो किसके पास ले जा रहे हो एवरीथिंग हैज टू बी डिसाइडेड एंड डन विद इन 1 आवर प्राइमरी फर्स्ट एड तो देना ही है उसके साथ वो प्राइमरी फर्स्ट एड देके रुक जाओ ऐसा नहीं है so, 1 घंटे में ये सब कुछ करना है
ओके सर ओके थैंक यू सर सर मनोज सर पीपीटी को सेंड करिए थोड़ा
सर वो मैं नहीं कर सकता मनोज जी कर पाएंगे
हाँ मनोज सर से बोल रहा हूँ सर ओके सर थैंक यू
सर मैंने नंबर शेयर किया आपने एक मेरे को व्हाट्सएप पे एक मैसेज कर दीजिएगा तो मैं शेयर कर दूंगा सर उसमें
सर जय हिंद
थैंक यू सर ओके
सर जयपुर राजस्थान से असिस्टेंट सब इंस्पेक्टर निवेदन कर रहा हूँ सर सर मेरा निवेदन ये है सर, जब घायल होता है कोई, उसको हॉस्पिटल पहुंचाने की आर्थिक सहायता गवर्नमेंट द्वारा कौन से डिपार्टमेंट देता है और वो सहायता किस प्रकार ली जाती है, ये आमजन पूछता है। हम कहीं सेमिनार करते हैं या कहीं स्कूल में बताते हैं जा करके इनके रोड सेफ्टी के बारे में, तो सर इसका थोड़ा सा क्लियर करो सर।
सर जी, गवर्नमेंट की गाइडलाइंस बहुत क्लियर है। हाईवे एक्सीडेंट्स पे सहायता मिलती है, ठीक है। और वहां पुलिस का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि आपने हॉस्पिटल में पहुंचा दिया, वो हॉस्पिटल आपसे चार्ज नहीं करेगा। वो पेशेंट का या पुलिस का फर्ज नहीं बनता, वो हॉस्पिटल नहीं चार्ज करेगा, हॉस्पिटल फिर डायरेक्टली बिल करेगा और वो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी पे करेगी या सरकार पे करेगी। सो आपका आपका इतना ही फर्ज बनता है कि भैया हॉस्पिटल को फोर्स करना, तुम्हें तो चार्ज किए बिना ये रूल ला, आपको करना पड़ेगा, फिर आप कैसे क्लेम करो। वो जवाबदारी पुलिस का नहीं है, वो जवाबदारी पेशेंट का नहीं है। आपका जवाबदारी है कि हॉस्पिटल रिफ्यूज नहीं करे।
सर जी सर, थैंक यू सर।
एंड नोटिफिकेशंस है सरकार के। और अब राजस्थान में तो पहले इंप्लीमेंट हुआ था, दिल्ली जयपुर स्ट्रेच पे। सो दैट इज
जी
द
सर।
मॉडल प्रोजेक्ट। तो राजस्थान में तो बहुत काम हो चुका है सर।
जी सर।
सर एक नेताजी
हाँ सर,
सुभाष
पूछिए सर।
हाँ, वो कुछ क्वेश्चन
थैंक यू
पूछना
सर।
चाहते हैं।
हाँ, एक क्वेश्चन है सर। जी सर। हाँ, आप हाथ रेज कर रहे हैं सर, पूछिए सर। ये साइबर ट्रैफिक ब्रांच। If anyone want to ask question, please ask it.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
sir.
yes,
Can
please.
I'm
Yes, yes, definitely.
Beauty Mahadev, I'm Aniket, commandant.
Speak, sir.
I want to ask a question.
Sir, can I speak?
Yes, yes, you're audible, sir. Please ask.
Okay. From my point of view, sir, this regarding LED bulb, most of the expensive vehicle to fit with this LED bulb. So while driving on the road at night, sir, this LED bulb is lots to iPhone 5 or pedestrian who's crossing. This will make to big accident, or it might take person to cross the road like a pedestrian or an old age person. So how do we solve them regarding vehicle who fit with the LED bulb, sir? That is my question.
Sir, he's asking about LED bulb, I think. But
Yeah.
have you got this question, sir?
Yeah.
No, I could not hear him. His voice. Can you ask him to type? His voice is
Sir,
breaking.
you just send it on chat, sir. I will ask it for you.
Okay.
Please chat it to me. I will ask it for you, sir.
Sir, by that time, I want to. Hello. By that time,
Mahadev,
I'll
sir.
ask. I'm from BOP Mahadev. I'm speaking. I'm Aniket, sir, Deputy Commandant. That is the BOP Mahadev. So I want to ask, sir, after an accident, so there's very public outrage, and people beat the locals, beat the person who have caused the accident. So sometimes what happens ki first they the strike kar bhi deta hai, then they flee away, and that action sometimes more accident happens. Like अगर कम भी हुआ हो तो उस गाड़ी में और ज्यादा हो जाता है. तो ये अवेयरनेस इस पे भी क्या कि जैसे अगर एक्सीडेंट किसी से हो जा रहा है जिसके थ्रू रहा है, उसमें जो पब्लिक गुस्सा है, ये जो है इसको मॉडिफाई किया जाए, ताकि कभी कभी मैंने कुछ वीडियोस भी देखे, जैसे पहला लगा तो वो गिरा ही है, लेकिन वो हड़बड़ी में डर से वो और चढ़ के चला जाता है आगे से, उसको और ज्यादा हार्म कर देता है. ये कह रहा था सर. मतलब
माधव जी, आपका वॉइस ब्रेक हुआ। मनोज जी, आप बता पाएंगे उन्होंने क्या पूछा? नहीं, आई कांट। क्या हो गया?
मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि कैसे कहूँ, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि सर कोई जिस व्हीकल एक्सीडेंट हो जाता है, पब्लिक आउटरेज हो जाता है, बहुत गुस्सा होता है, उसी को मारते हैं, पीटने लगते हैं. कभी वीडियोस में ये भी देखा है कि पहले वो उतना एक्सीडेंट ज्यादा कॉज नहीं करता, इंजरी करता है, बट जब भागने में डर से वो और ज्यादा चढ़ के चला जाता है विक्टिम के ऊपर से। इस चीज की अवेयरनेस हो रहा है, इस चीज को भी modify के मॉडरेटली हैंडल किया जाए। जो लोग बहुत ज्यादा अग्रेसिव हो जाते हैं, ये चीज कह रहा हूँ कि this can
माधव जी,
happen anytime with anyone, sir.
आप चाहे कितने भी रूल्स बना ले, जब तक आप एडुकेट नहीं करेंगे लोगों को, सो ये होता रहेगा। वो एडुकेशन, जैसे मैंने कहा ना, सिर्फ ट्रैफिक रूल्स का एडुकेशन जो हम करते रहते हैं वो गलत। एक बिहेवियरल एडुकेशन, एक चेंज लाना जरूरी है। सो हर एक जगह पे लोगों से बात करना है कि आप और हानिकारक काम कर रहे हो जब आप किसी एक्सीडेंट विक्टिम या किसी गाड़ी वाले को पीट रहे हो, गाड़ी तोड़ रहे हो। वो जो हमारा एटीट्यूड है ना, जो बस जला दिया या गाड़ी के शीशे तोड़ दिए लेकिन एक्सीडेंट विक्टिम को कोई नहीं देखता, वो एक पास टाइम है हमारे। मुझे लगता नहीं है कि सब समय क्रोध से होता है। चलो कोई झगड़ा हो रहा है, चलो एक पत्थर मार दो। ये एक एटीट्यूड है, एंड वो हम काफी देखते रहते हैं हाईवेज पे। एक गांव का कोई लड़का वहां खड़ा है बस स्टॉप पे, चलो एक पत्थर उठा के मार दो। कोई कारण नहीं, और उसका आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते हो सर। जब तक आप लोगों को एडुकेट नहीं करोगे, एक सोशली रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं आएगी, वो चलता रहेगा सर। एक चीज जो मैं सब समय कहता हूँ कि अगर एक्सीडेंट हुआ, ये जो भाग जाते हैं वो भागते हैं दो कारण के लिए। एक, उनको डर लगता है कि पुलिस केस होगा, ऑब्वियसली होगा, गलती किया है। पर दूसरा कि यार लोकल मारपीट करेंगे, इसलिए किसी को बचाने के लिए रुकते नहीं है। दैट इज अ वेरी वरीसम थिंग, क्योंकि लोग ये नहीं देख रहे कि बंदा रुका हुआ है किसी को बचाने के लिए। बस इसने एक्सीडेंट किया, इसको मारो। वो बंदा जो पड़ा हुआ है उसको पड़े रहने दो। सो दैट कैन ओनली
वही
चेंज।
चीज बोल रहा था सर मैं।
I know, understand. That can only change with education, एक social behavioral change. And frankly speaking, आप मुझे पूछोगे तो मेरे पास इसका जवाब नहीं है। मैं देखता रहता हूँ, कभी कभी तो मेरे एक पुराना ड्राइवर था जो था, सर प्लीज यहाँ मत रुकिए, क्या सोचेंगे कि हमने ही एक्सीडेंट किया है। I mean, क्या करें
So we,
सर
sir,
ये हमारे साथ अक्सर होता है कि हम जैसे रुक भी जाते हैं तो कहते हैं जैसे बीएसएफ है, सर रुकेंगे तो ये हमारे ऊपर ही इल्जाम लगा देंगे। ड्राइवर कहते हैं, जो गार्ड में रहता है वो ज्यादा कहते हैं ये चीज कि आप रुकना भी चाहते हो तो कहेंगे सर ये तो फोर्स वालों को ज्यादा जानबूझ के फंसा देते हैं, फंसा देंगे सर कि आप ही ने किया, या इस तरह आपका इन्वॉल्वमेंट दिखा देंगे, तो वो और ज्यादा डरे रहते हैं इस बात को लेकर।
I understand that.
तो
पर
हम लोग
माधव जी,
रुकना भी
आपने जो
चाहते
कहा
हैं,
ना,
हेल्प भी करते हैं, लेकिन वो चीज रहता है।
मैं एक चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगा, आप लोगों को मैं बोलने भूल गया। एक चीज प्लीज याद रखिए कि इंडिया में ऐसा कोई रूल नहीं है जो अलाउ करता है, आप सब ट्रैफिक ब्रांच में रहेंगे या एनफोर्समेंट में है, कोई भी रूल नहीं है जो अलाउ करता है एम्बुलेंस को गलत रास्ते से जाना। रॉन्ग वे से ड्राइव करना एम्बुलेंस के लिए कहीं भी अलाउड नहीं है। जस्ट बिकॉज एम्बुलेंस है जल्दी जाएगा। मेरा एक ही सिंपल सिद्धांत है, एक जिंदगी बचाने के लिए जो एम्बुलेंस में है, जो पेशेंट है, मरीज है, उसके एक जिंदगी बचाने के लिए बाकी लोगों की जिंदगी जो रास्ते पे है उसको आप एंडेंजर नहीं कर सकते। एक चीज ये है कि जितना जल्दी हो जल्दी जाओ, रेड लाइट तोड़ो, दूसरे ऑपोजिट लेन में चला लो, ये आप बंद कर सकते।
sir, we are talking about the behavioral change. Am
Yes,
I
sir.
audible, sir?
Yes, I think you're audible. BSF Academy आ रहा है on the screen.
Sir, we are talking about behavioral change, and what steps government is taking, sir, in regards with changing the behavior of starting from kids. I think जो muscle power है, sir, we talk about muscle power. We need to inculcate this habit from very starting. I hope you are getting what I'm trying to bring in here, sir.
Absolutely, I understand.
And if I recall, a couple of years back, I was called by my school in Delhi, and I just had a word with one of my teachers, and it was very surprising to know that they were not really having much of thing to talk about on road safety and driving skills, or what is to be done by a kid while he or she is simply crossing a road. And so we need to inculcate these kind of habits from very starting, and then only we'll be able to achieve
we are actually talking about the Sustainable Development Goals.
Sir, I agree to it. I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
Sir, myself Hitesh Chandra, sir. I'm from BSF Academy.
Hitesh, the thing is, I know we are talking of SDGs and we are not perhaps we are putting the bullock, cart before the buffalo or the ox or whatever you call it. The problem is where to start. And for me, whatever point I feel like starting that I am capable of, I start there. So अगर जिस स्कूल पे मेरा बेटा पढ़ता था मैं जाके लोगों को समझाता था and I used to say fine, I am an uninvited faculty but I'll come and train. So that is what I expect of every doctor who treats trauma. I expect of every enforcement official to go and talk just not about road safety but about drug behavior, other things. Just volunteer as a parent and go and talk. And frankly speaking, it's not talking to the children. I think we need to talk to the teachers. They are the continuity people in school. We make the mistake of talking to children. And believe me, when a child sees a teacher coming without a helmet, it's a role model for a child when he or she is small. And he sees the father or the mother or the teacher coming without a helmet. Why would he not do it? It's not the fault of the child. So as a parent and as somebody, even as an alumni to my school, I volunteer to go and teach to the teachers. CPR कैसे देते हैं, first aid कैसे देते हैं, क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. So to this entire group, I would say that just volunteer to go and talk to your nearest school where your kid is going or where you have studied. That's the only way to, I know government, you can have a lot of rules and regulations and guidelines. But if each of us don't do that, own it up, we will never change behavioral attitudes.
Exactly, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, may I add something, sir?
Sure, Dharmendra ji, always.
सर रितेश सर हैं और बीओपी महादेव से फर्स्ट बटालियन से मोस्ट प्रोबेबली मेरे ख्याल से असिस्टेंट कमांडेंट, क्या नाम बताया था आपने बीओपी महादेव से?
अनिकेत श्रीवास्तव डिप्टी कमांडेंट बीएसएफ फर्स्ट बटालियन बीएसएफ से।
धर्मेंद्र डिप्टी कमांडेंट से मैं भी हूँ। मैं बताना चाहूंगा सर कि जो बीएनएस का जो हमारे यहाँ क्या है, इन्फोर्समेंट पे ही सारे चीजें ज्यादा इम्प्लीमेंट होती हैं। गवर्नमेंट ने जो बीएनएस सेक्शन 1062 था, भारतीय न्याय संहिता जो नया अभी इम्प्लीमेंट किया गवर्नमेंट ने, इसका सेक्शन 1062 था, जिसमें उन्होंने ये कहा था 1062 में डेथ के कॉज की वजह से अगर कोई भागता है तो उसको 10 साल की पनिशमेंट है। और जब ये आया तो इसके इतना मतलब इसका लोगों ने इतना विरोध किया कि पूरे बीएनएस को पास किया गया। पूरे बीएनएस में से सिर्फ ये पोर्टल 1062 जो आपने अभी बात की थी, उसका ये था कि अगर हम इसको इन्फोर्स करते हैं पूरे गवर्नमेंट को सिर्फ इसे 1062 इन्होंने हटा के बाकी लॉ को पास किया है। तो गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से कोशिश थी कि इसको कंट्रोल किया जाए। उन्होंने इसको बीएनएस में इम्प्लीमेंट भी किया था, चेंज भी किया था, लेकिन पब्लिक जो अपोज किया, पब्लिक ने अपोज किया, उसकी वजह से इसको हटाना पड़ा। तो हम खुद भी इसके लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल है कहीं ना कहीं।
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's a collective responsibility. हम ये नहीं बोल सकते road safety is a collective responsibility. It cannot be government's responsibility or an NGO's responsibility or just enforcement official जो traffic में है उनकी responsibility. It's a collective responsibility that we need to take care of. तो जैसे मैंने कहा ना, I mean, I volunteer. ये group दिख रहा है मुझे, आप नहीं मानेंगे, वो आप laughing clubs जानते हैं ना, हर एक शहर में laughing clubs तो होता है आजकल। So I go to this in the morning when I walk, I go and talk to these elderly people कि आपके grandchildren को समझाइए, आप खुद आ रहे हो एक बच्चे को लेके without wearing a helmet, तो वो कहाँ से सीखे? So that is a conscious effort that all of us need to make to smaller groups. जब भी मिले, chance मिले, जैसे helmets, seat belts पहनना बहुत जरूरी है। हर एक जन को रोकिए ना। You don't have to be an enforcement official. On a social basis also we can do that. That would make a change. In fact, I would love to, because Dharmendra is there, I would love to go to every BSF place and talk. आप बुलाइए, मैं आ जाऊंगा दर्मेंद्र जी।
हेलो सर,
कुछ कहना चाहता हूँ
सर, श्योर सर, हम BSF में आपको बुलाएंगे।
So, sir, ठीक no, sir, can I speak?
Can the gentleman with GK mute his mic, please?
मनोज सर जीके साहब को आउट कर दीजिए प्लीज.
Sir, I am Hitto, Inspector of Police, Tamil Nadu, Salem City. Personally, very thanks, sir. Important road safety accident, take a class, sir. Understand a class, sir. Sir, very excellent road safety class is very top rules and regulation, public awareness class, sir. Even on common public.
Kittu sir, I can't hear. Kittu sir, I can't hear you. Your voice is breaking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
मनोज जी, ये GK उनको बोलेंगे प्लीज फोन करके.
Sir, Salem City, Tamil Nadu, sir. Sir, personally, very thank you, sir. Important road safety class attend, sir. Sir, given a common public start the point, sir. Very good, sir. All school and colleges attend the road safety awareness class. Thank you, sir.
मनोज सर जीके साहब को सस्पेंड कर देते ना. मनोज सर जीके साहब को सस्पेंड कर दीजिए ना.
Dismiss.
बहुत डिस्टर्ब हो रही है, सुनाई नहीं देता ये जीके को.
हाँ, he's continuously. Can somebody call him and talk to him?
जीके को म्यूट कर दीजिए, बहुत डिस्टर्ब दे रहा है जीके.
हाँ चलिए, फाइन, फाइनली म्यूट हुआ. लालटेन जी बताइए. लालटेन जी wanted to talk something. असम से हैं.
Good morning, sir. I am Ilankili Valavan from Tamil Nadu.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good afternoon, Radha.
Good afternoon. Now in this course, we are discussing about accident. After accident, what are the steps we take by ambulance and educated and awareness programs, schools and the colleges. But after mid accident, we doing properly this methods like 108 ambulance and other help. But number of vehicles are increased day by day in all over India. For example, in one house, they are having a number of vehicles. For example, one vehicle for one two-wheeler vehicle, electric vehicle for go to marketing and other playgrounds like that. At the same house, only one son or daughter is there, but they are having many more two-wheelers and also someone families and car. But they are using the vehicles for every purpose or for a various purpose for variety vehicles, high-speed vehicles for weekend travel. So why we are not take steps to reduce the vehicles in recent times in India? I feel number of vehicles is also one of the important reason to make fatal accidents. If you reduce the number of vehicles in a house or any restriction the government is give or take any restriction to reduce the vehicles. Any steps to reduce the vehicles. For example, one vehicle, one four-wheeler for a family. 2 or 3 two-wheelers are only family. I hope I understand what I asked. Just brief.
Sir, I understand, but that's a government policy, and I don't think CAPT or I can anyway help there. Even I am puzzled why one of the best ways is to curb vehicles per family, but how do you stop that? It's like we all know tobacco kills people. We all know smoking kills people. Can you stop tobacco production? You can't. I mean, so there are pushes and pulls which perhaps is beyond me to answer. Vehicle reduction makes sense, but I don't think it's a government's call. Can't do anything about it.
I was read about road traffic in Russia and Moscow, especially in Moscow. Some roads are restricted to two-wheelers and the four-wheelers. They are allowed only cycles. The same for any purpose, for not all purpose. We do not use four-wheelers and two-wheelers for office. And some office are allowed only bicycles to come to office. So like that, we take any steps to reduce the number of vehicles on road. It will reduce the vehicle accidents also. I feel like that. That's also.
Yeah, all of us understand that challenge. I mean, I'm not at all saying, but it's beyond our scope to do anything about it.
Thank you.
I think ASI Lalthingal wants to say something. Yes, sir, please.
Sir, can I talk?
Yeah, please.
Sir, my question is that, sir, regarding the LED bulb. Most of the expensive vehicle nowadays, they come out in the road with the LED bulb. So while driving at night time in the road, this will make a harm to other users of the road, sir. So what do you think in connection with this? Who will control of all these things? Can they fit an LED light with an expensive vehicle, or they have to follow the rule of a traffic rule in India?
See, this is an engineering issue, a vehicle engineering issue, and again, government has to take a call. I mean, we really can't do anything about it. There are the Ministry of Road Transport has people to take care of it. You and me can't make a difference there. You can write to Minister of Road Transport, and if there are lots of people writing, I'm sure government has a process of taking cognizance of such issues. But LED bulbs are there, and you can't do much about it.
Most of the senior citizens also, they are using the road, no, sir. At an old age, they are driving. So at night time, when they drive this vehicle with this LED light, for them also it's very difficult to cross in a junction or to drive in a safe way, sir. That's why I just want to bring this question, sir.
Would you have a response to this? I mean, I don't know how to respond to it, frankly speaking.
Saying, sir, one more question. Like you are saying, sir, if the kid is not wearing a helmet, it is not the fault of the kid, it is the fault of the parents. So what about the parents?
Yes.
Those the parents who are coming from the big shot family, they are buying a motorcycle for the kids because they love them so much, sir. They are buying a super bike for them. So do you think it is the rightful thing for them to buy an expensive bike, a super bike for them, and they ride in the road at an young age, sir?
It is obviously not right, but then it is an enforcement issue and an education issue. The risk, and the police needs to enforce it. I mean, just because they come from an influential family, they get away with a super bike. They can afford a super bike. Let them buy it, but let the police stop. There are two parts to it. Parents need to be educated about safety procedures. The kid doesn't understand that, and I mean, I suppose the law is equal for everybody. So if he's driving without a helmet, stop him.
Okay, sir. at their age, no, sir, at 16 to 20, no, sir, their blood also is very hot. They ride very recklessly in the road. They try to copy out them the Western movies, like you are saying, like a hero film.
I agree to it, sir. I agree to it, but that's an enforcement issue and an education issue. You educate the parents, you tell them what to do, and then you make sure enforcement happens.
What I feel from my side, I feel that the parents also, they have a responsibility to bring and minimize the road traffic accident safety, sir. That's why I bring this question on top of your table, sir.
Sir, I would like to add here, sir, that in Motor Vehicle Act, there are provisions that there is fine for parent, fine for 500 to 25,000, and imprisonment up to 3 years for if they are if any juvenile is driving. Am I clear, sir?
Manoj sir, your mic is off. Currently.
Am I clear, sir? The legal driving age is 18 years in India, sir. Legal driving age is 18 years. If someone is below 18 years, then Motor Vehicle Act is implementable to them, and the fine up to 5,000 to 25,000, and that imprisonment up to 3 years is applicable to for the parent only.
मनोज जी म्यूट पे है शायद आप। मनोज जी आप म्यूट पे हैं।
Sir, so we are now ending our session by giving a vote of thanks to our eminent speaker. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, absolutely, sir.
Sir. So I would like to thank sir, Dr. Subrata Das, sir. He is the founder of Lifeline Foundation, and he is doing a very commendable job in the road safety aspect. And he has spared his valuable time and given us insight about this subject. So once again, I would like to thank you, sir. I would like to thank our director, sir, our deputy director, sir, and the technical team of our CAPT for making it possible for us to share the views with our participants online. And above all, I would like to thank all our participants on the behalf of our director. They have spared their time and they have interacted us and sent us inquiry about the subject. So we all will be enlightened by the views. I would like to thank all of us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, one question, sir. One question. Sir, one question.
You can ask it, sir.
सर मैं अरुणाचल प्रदेश रोड सेफ्टी इंचार्ज बोल रहा हूँ। मुझे सर एक दो थोड़ा सा सस्पेक्ट है कि अगर विक्टिम को हम गोल्डन आवर में अगर मैं हॉस्पिटल ले जाता हूँ, प्राइवेट हो या कोई भी हॉस्पिटल में, वो अगर प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल और नियरेस्ट
ऑल ऑफिसर्स
लेने में तो क्या किया जाए?
के रोड सेफ्टी क्लास
सुना नहीं दिया
सर। बाकी लोग थोड़ा शांत हो जाए तो वो अपना क्वेश्चन पूछ लेंगे सर एक बार।
में अगर हम किसी विक्टिम को अगर हम नियरेस्ट गोल्डन आवर में ले जाना चाहते हैं, ले जाते हैं, लेकिन वहां का कोई नियरेस्ट जो हॉस्पिटल उसको लेने से एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहा, तो उसको क्या किया जाए, क्या कर सकते हैं सर?
सर ओके, 1989 में जैसे मैंने कहा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक जजमेंट दिया था कि कोई भी डॉक्टर किसी रोड एक्सीडेंट विक्टिम के पेशेंट को रिफ्यूज नहीं कर सकता। उसके बाद मोटर व्हीकल एक्ट में वो अमेंडमेंट आ गया. So I mean when the motor vehicle act 90 amend हुआ, plus गुड सैमरिटन गाइडलाइन भी वही कहता है, तो हॉस्पिटल तो रिफ्यूज कर ही नहीं सकता सर किसी भी हालत से. कि अगर हॉस्पिटल आप उसके ऊपर केस कर सकते हैं.
प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल
प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल मैं तो कह रहा हूँ प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल नहीं कर सकता रिफ्यूज किसी को सर, किसी को या नहीं किसी को नहीं सर. वो अगर आप नहीं, एक ही ये है, अगर आप सपोज किसी फिजिशियन के पास ले गए, ठीक है, एक कार्डियक हॉस्पिटल में ले गए और उसका पैर टूट गया है, तो वो बोल सकता है मेरे पास ऑर्थोपेडिक सर्जन नहीं है, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता, बट प्राइमरी फर्स्ट एड तो देना पड़ेगा.
ओके ओके सर. दूसरा सर जो हिट एंड रन, हाँ सर हिट एंड रन केसेस में गवर्नमेंट विक्टिम्स को पेमेंट जो करती है वो लोग बार बार पुलिस को ही प्रेशराइज करते हैं, तो पुलिस तो इसमें पुलिस का रोल नहीं, पुलिस को हॉस्पिटल पहुंचा दिया, अब इसके बाद काम तो मेडिकल का है, वो पैसा अपना लेना
मनोज जी सुनाई नहीं दे रहा, पीछे दो आवाजें हो रही है
सर. हिट एंड रन केसेस में अगर विक्टिम को हॉस्पिटल ले गए, हॉस्पिटल लेकर के उसको अगर हमने छोड़ दिया तो हॉस्पिटल का काम है, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वो पेमेंट लेना और नहीं लेना कैसे करना हो उनका, लेकिन वो पुलिस को ही कभी कभी प्रेशराइज करते हैं.
वो तो करेंगे सर. देखिए एक चीज है सर, आप सरकारी अफसर है, आप यूनिफॉर्म में हैं, तो सबको लगता है कि इनको अप्रोच करो तो काम आसान हो जाएगा. सर दैट इज, मैं अगर होता तो मैं भी बोलता सर प्लीज हेल्प कर दीजिए. वो तो होगा सर.
थैंक यू सर. थैंक यू सर, बहुत अच्छा लगा ये प्रोग्राम से, हम लोगों ने कुछ अर्न किया.
So with this we are ending our session, sir. We are very thankful to our speaker, sir, and all the participants, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You all can disconnect, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other session is there?
थैंक यू सर.
Sir, is it finished or any other session is there, sir?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
लैपटॉप खोलेंगे ये भैया चेक करना पड़ेगा बाबू, ये तेजी है अगर रिपोर्ट लाएंगे बुक शीरो लाया ये